Welcome to the Gen AI podcast, where the future meets fun and tech talk trends. Get ready to dive into the world of artificial intelligence like never before. Your hosts, Dale, Alan, Greg and Val, are about to take you on a wild ride through the AI universe. So, buckle up, tune in, and let the AI adventure begin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 9 of the Gen AI podcast. Everyone except myself and Al has been quite elusive to recording these episodes, and we're not going to speculate too much on why, but they are gallivanting all over the world, Al, as are you. So how are you? Are we going to spend any time on Greg and Val?
Yeah, hope they're doing okay. If you have seen them, send us a message, as usual. There seems to be an epidemic of people missing and getting lost. So, I don't know. I know that Greg is either in San Francisco or in the Valley, but I know there's a couple of Sasquatches running out there, so I hope he's safe.
And the email address you put out on the last episode, we were inundated with concern around Val as well.
Was it findval@gmail.com?
I can't remember. But it wasn't a real email address, but there was plenty of concerned listeners. Don't worry, he's alive and well. He sends his regards, and apparently he will still make an appearance soon. But we won't hold our breath. Well, I don't think.
No, this could be the big unveil. We could have like the end of season episode where Val actually shows up.
We'll save some space for him. We'll make it a surprise. We're not. It's quite kind of nice, I think, keeping the listeners just intrigued, right? Cliffhanger every single time, every episode. Will he? Won't he?
Yes,
he won't.
Absolutely.
Anyway, we've given them enough airtime.
Yeah.
I'd like to chat about you because you're the other side of the world, the other side of the pond.
Yeah, I am currently, and you're gonna love this. I am in Arizona, in a place called Lake Havasu City. Now, the nerdier of us will actually have heard this name before. So, about 3 minutes that way, out of my green hotel room, is London Bridge.
No, really?
Yes. So this is the place when back in 1967, I want to say, some American businessman bought London Bridge and had it relocated brick by brick. This is where it ended up.
Are you serious? The original?
I am serious. The original, yes.
The OG.
Well, yeah. When it started sinking because it couldn't take the weight of cars. So they brought it over here, and it's just such a fascinating place because now all of the brand of the place is London Bridge, right? Even there are restaurants that sell fish and chips, and we're in Arizona in the middle of the desert, so definitely frozen. But the interesting part of this is how this came about, right? Because really, the only thing that people remember about the story is there's this crazy businessman that bought a bridge and had it relocated. But really what was happening is that the city got founded 4 years earlier because they were building a dam. So they built a dam, consequentially a lake, because that's what happens always when you build a dam, and a bypass channel, right? And they wanted to build a city around this because it's the middle of the desert on the Colorado River. Wherever you build a dam, you put some civilization around it. That's what happened with Palm Springs, what happened with Las Vegas, and all sorts of other places. And they realized that, well, if we're going to put a place in the middle of the desert next to a dam where people go to for tourism, it's just going to end up with a bunch of casinos run by the mob again. And this has not happened here, I think partly because they were building the channel, so they bought London Bridge, shipped it over, and they built the channel the exact width of the bridge to fit it in, and they made that the brand of the town. So it's a 10,000 person town. I'm not entirely sure, something like that. It feels 5 to 10,000 people, probably not more. But I literally picked the local news in the hotel lobby, 5 major capital project improvements, total cost of $331 million,
Wow.
all funded by the municipality. So it must be working, right? So like do something crazy and it'll pay off.
Yeah.
It's kind of where I'm getting at, right? And it's just such a fascinating story. For me, it's just a trip, a couple of days off between Vegas and Los Angeles, where I have to go tomorrow night. I thought, let's go see something weird, and I love it.
It's
Sorry,
awesome.
sorry for the digression. It's got nothing to do with AI, but we love projects, we love nerdy, weird stuff, and I don't think it gets any better than this.
Yeah, no, honestly, it is fascinating because a lot of us have traveled, but a lot of us haven't as well. And we've not traveled all over the world to every single place. So it's good to learn about a new place. And I never knew the original London Bridge was shipped all the way across the world to the other side. And so
Yeah,
I guess the listeners that do listen, the one or two or three, I think we've got three now.
maybe one of them knows.
Yeah, exactly. One of these knows. While we're on listeners, we should actually give a shout out to some of the comments we're getting in. I'll just pick one or two from the last episode because apparently the last episode we did, episode 8 on breaking news, where we went through a bit of what was happening, was really well appreciated by a few people. So Ricardo sent in, loved the insights on the news and the cutting through the noise. So thank you very much. And Jack Lomas, actually, which I know you know Jack as well. Great
Hey,
guy.
Jack.
Shout out to Jack. He loved the fact that we're using AI to generate summaries of conversations about AI.
That got
So
a bit meta, didn't it?
exactly.
We should probably
So
not mention that the agenda is also generated by AI, so at this point we'll
exactly.
just basically just lob it all into Synthesia and not actually have to do any work anymore.
Soon.
Soon.
How many episodes do you think we need? How many hours of recording? Just one? One episode's enough?
To train a model to pretend to
Yeah.
I think we already got the content for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe episode 10 as a celebratory episode. We can just not
Yeah.
turn up, talk about
We can
Val.
have Synthesia bots talking to each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
Exactly. Be good fun. But no, thanks. Keep the comments coming in, folks. We do enjoy it. We do read it. And hopefully you are gaining from what we're saying. Again, just if this is your first episode, to remind you, we're doing this out of the goodness of our hearts, genuinely. I say that in jest, but it's the truth, because I, for one, realized that I don't know everything that is going on in AI, generative AI, machine learning data, yada, yada, yada. And speaking to folks like Alan and Greg and others, I realized that there's a lot that I don't know. And so that's why we pulled everyone together and said, let's share our thoughts. So
Are
hopefully
you
you're
not
learning
getting
from it.
paid?
Not yet. Are you going to send me a check, Al?
No.
Damn it.
Are you
Saw it
gonna
in
send
there.
me one?
Okay. We'll swap. We'll swap checks.
Okay.
But no, we have fun with it as well, as you can probably hear, and gives us a chance to catch up. So basically, you're just hearing a catch up conversation that we'd ordinarily have on what's happening in the world and sharing it with all of you. So, what is happening on the other side of the world from where I am and where Al is? So, you've recently you posted on LinkedIn, Al, that you were at Cloud Next, is it?
Yes.
So what is
Yeah.
that all about? What were you doing there? You gave me some stats. You know, I'm a project controls geek, so I like numbers. But there's others that will like numbers as well.
Yeah. So Cloud Next is Google Cloud's annual conference. It is all about Google Cloud, obviously. This year it was in Vegas. That was basically the main reason for my trip, and I connected lots of other things around it, including coming here. And I guess like the TLDR of it, stats, it is about 35,000 people. So the keynote sessions were done in an arena, and then there was the final evening was in a stadium, and Kings of Leon played.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It is that big. If you get everyone, it fills a stadium. There were about over 3 days, I want to say 400 sessions to go to and choose from. I occupied the entire convention center of the Mandalay Bay. And out of 400 sessions, I feel like probably 390 were about Gemini, generative AI, and agents, and how
Wow.
to build those using Google Cloud. That's basically my main reason for coming here, right? There was an expo part of the convention, and there was lots of different use cases and industries represented. There were a lot of the sessions, a lot of the talks were use cases by one of Google Cloud's customers. Out of all of this, I don't think there was a single one in construction or project management. So I don't know if that tells you something, but
Well, let's pick that apart. Yeah, when you said it to me before we hit record, I was like, that is one, really, really interesting, and two, obviously the question begs why. Is it the fact that they didn't market it to the project profession? Is it the case that the project profession isn't interested in the topic? I mean, do you have any insight into that, or do you have an opinion or guesses on why that might be? And we're talking about people exhibiting, right? People that actually have stands and are showcasing what we're doing.
not necessarily, right? Even just people going to do a talk about what they have done using Google Cloud, right? So a
Yeah,
lot of it was just case studies
and nothing to
of
do with projects.
yeah, they're not
Wow.
selling their stuff, right? But it would be here's an example of how we use the platform to build this intelligent thing, right? I could not find one. I was interested to see if there was one, but I couldn't find one. I know for a fact, I don't know anything about Google Cloud's internal sales, but I know for a fact that Microsoft have a dedicated construction sales team that is comprised of at least one person. Basically, all I'm saying is that I met one person that sells to construction. But I think it's more about just selling Copilot rather than any of the platform to build things on top of. Right. That said, Google Cloud also owns and runs Google Workspace, right, which is Google's competitor to Office 365.
Mm.
And even there, I couldn't find a use case or a case study. So I don't know if it means that they're not trying, or it means that there's no adoption, or there's something specific about Google. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess there's something in it, because if I think of a lot of the client organizations I work with, not just client organizations, client contractors, subcontractors, if most people are using Microsoft, maybe they're not interested in the Google side of things, which for me is a little bit naive, if I may, because regardless, you can get ideas, right? And you can apply them regardless of which environment, platform you use. And yeah, whilst Copilot, Fabric, Azure, whatever it is, you're using in Microsoft is the go-to, simply because that's what most organizations have. It shouldn't exclude Google.
No, I
However,
mean you would expect to see one, right? But I've got another data point which also troubles me. Putting the founder hat on, I actually like this because it means that there's untapped opportunity.
mm,
But the week before Cloud Next, I was in San Francisco, which also coincided with Y Combinator's demo days. So Y Combinator is the biggest and most successful startup program in the world. Everything from Dropbox to Airbnb to Jasper, if you look at recent AI, has come from or gone through Y Combinator. So their Winter 24 cohort just finished. There's 260 companies selected from 27,000 applications. I'm just reading data off their website now. But the interesting point here is that the verticals, there was nothing that got close to, so 65% was B2B SaaS enterprise. So think productivity, that kind of stuff, things that every enterprise needs. 11% in consumer, 10% in healthcare, 8% in fintech, and then there's basically a tail after that, right? And construction, project management, those things don't even get mentioned. So again, lack of attention for sure.
Yeah, that's really interesting, right? Because for those that don't know Y Combinator, and that's Y as in the letter Y Combinator, their top Y Combinator companies: Stripe, Airbnb, Coinbase, Dropbox, Reddit. I'm just reading off their thing here, their website as well. But and for a top place like that, you're getting nothing really in controls construction. It's an interesting one, and we have spoken a little bit before about barriers to adoption, and one, it's at the risk of repeating ourselves, I think, and not repeating ourselves on what the barriers are, but I think maybe to try and see how we can overcome these, because I do think there is a barrier in terms of understanding what AI is and the benefits of AI. If you put it in simple terms, right? If an AI product costs 100K, what is that really? That's a drop in the ocean in terms of the millions and sometimes billions that mega projects spend. And they're taking 12 to 24 months to make decisions, where they could have just tried it up front. And I feel sometimes that perhaps we're adopting traditional methods of trying new things where it takes time, and why not just try it straight away so you know straight away whether it works or not? Because the age-old saying that's attributed to Einstein, but we don't know for certain if it is him who said it: if you do the same thing over and over, you get the same result. You're not going to get anything different. And it is behaviors. I think it is attitudes. But I do think, here's the but, from what I'm seeing, is that people are open, although they don't understand. They're becoming more open. And I feel like, I think I said this to you before we hit record, is that I feel like there's a certain role that those of us that do know have in educating them and taking them along the journey. Although at times it is difficult. And it's not difficult because people don't want to, it's because people don't have time on projects. And that's the whole chicken and egg thing, right? Is there's so much chaos and things happening, and there's things going wrong, and there's risks that I don't foresee happening, and my schedule's not clear. And yet actually there's technology here that can help you with all of that, but you don't have the time to implement it.
Yeah, the way I'm thinking about it is more about opportunity, right? It means that there's a huge amount of very big opportunities that are very crowded. And so the question is this an opportunity that everybody's missing because they're going for the more sexy stuff, I guess? Or is it that we actually represent a much smaller market, which means that we don't get the attention of the giants in the way that we think we would, right? I think it's more the former than the latter, or I wouldn't be here, quite frankly, right?
Yeah.
And only time will tell, right? We'll see what happens. I think in terms of the decision processes, my only thought that comes to mind is that if it takes you 2 years to decide to test something, by the time you're testing it, you're testing something that's 2 years old, right?
Yeah.
And 2 years is a very long time in AI.
I agree, and maybe because a lot gets compared to manufacturing, and
Manufacturing's on these lists, and it had a sector at Google Next, a big one actually.
well, this is the thing, right? But I think one of the differences that manufacturing has is that if you think manufacturing, let's say two car companies, right? They're competing with one another, so speed to market's important, and understanding gains is important because it gives you a competitive advantage. If you're doing a rail project in the north and a rail project down in the south, you're not really competing against each other as such, are you? Um, maybe this is where the likes of government organizations, the IPA, comes into play, going, if you can make savings, you can somehow redistribute those elsewhere for additional scope, whatever the case might be. I don't know. But
Well,
if there's a
you
way
do have.
to...
Oh no, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just about to say, if there's a way to create competition between projects, there might be a more open attitude to going, okay, how can we do things quicker, faster, cheaper, better, safer using tech? I don't know.
I guess that might be part of how the contract world works, right? So what I mean by that is that you have competition during a bid, right? During a bid process. And then a contract is awarded for a predetermined amount of time. And yeah, there is effectively no incentive to change anything during that contract because it's been awarded, right? I've also seen it done in some cases. If you think about project control specifically, right, which you're in, where instead of awarding the contract for the duration of the project, you award it for 2 years, and then it's subject to renewal, right? And if you don't innovate and you don't perform, then you lose out to somebody else who's going to bid on the renewal. That can be a form of competition, but you're right. Like, projects don't compete with each other in terms of execution of the project. You have artifacts that are constructed that compete with other artifacts that are constructed. So if you're building, I don't know, a shopping center, it's going to be competing with the other shopping centers, but it's never about the execution of it.
Yeah. And I would go as far as say that competitive nature should be extended to not just contractors trying to win a contract, but staff working on projects as well. Which is controversial, I know, specifically if you're in the UK, but I love borrowing from sports teams, right? And if you want to be selected to represent your country, you have to be the best at what you do, and it doesn't guarantee that you will represent your country for every single match. You have to be top of your game, and you know that you're only holding that for the time you are the best. And so if you can create that within organizations as well, particularly client organizations, because I feel like this is a bit of a I hate to use the word pandemic, but it feels like it's something that's got to do with client organizations where people just feel safe. If I can just stand on the radar, get by, not put my head above the parapet, and just do the bare minimum, I'll be okay. Whereas I'm like, well, why don't you bring the competitive nature that you would get in a business that's there for profit, and put the best athlete on the field, and create that competitive nature. I mean, there is something to say about, and we won't get too much into politics, but there's something to say about politics where it's short-sighted because, there's a set term, and that's all, the politician is trying to look for is what's the one in my short term. But they're also trying to leave a legacy at the same time, the hope is, and try and do as best they can. And so there might be something in that, well, hey, look, so Val and I, although he's never been on this podcast, he's been on another podcast that we've got, we previously looked at, could you create a org chart where you voted in your leadership? And so the team said, okay, well here, this was the idea. If you could give the team the power to vote in who they want to lead them, and that would be set for a term, whether 12 months, 24 months, make it up, whatever it needs to be. And when it comes to the end of the term, based on your performance, either that team's going to vote you in again, or they're going to vote someone else in. And by doing that, maybe you create innovation and people that are more willing to adopt and adapt and bring in new things. I don't know. What are your thoughts on
I'm
that?
not too sure about the voting part, mostly because would the football players vote for the manager that is going to take them to the Champions League?
Yeah, good point. I think we were mixing politics and sports in this instance. We were mixing our drinks, but yeah, I take your point of
But I mean, if you look at political voting, you kind of have the same result. Like, will the population choose the leader that makes them most successful, or will they choose the leader that the majority of them likes the most?
Yeah.
Right? And those two things are not necessarily, sometimes they may be the same thing, but not necessarily.
Yeah. There isn't always wisdom in the crowds, right? But if we could bring it back to sports, if we did have the right management team that selected players, selected the best team to deliver projects, and when they failed to deliver, my camera's going crazy again, and when they failed to deliver, they get replaced. There is a substitutes bench. You may get injured, you may get fired.
There is the toxic version of that, though, right? So I know we're not really talking about AI now, but there is the toxic version of that, which is I've seen it happen in several places. I'll try and provide an anonymous version of it. The project is 5 years late. It's suddenly been announced that the project is 5 years late, going to be 5 years late, and $5 billion over budget. Right? Leadership team fires the project director, sends in somebody new, and in their mind, they solve the problem. Well, I'm sorry, you're still 5 years late and $5 billion over budget. $5 billion over budget. You're not going to undo that, really. So is that enough, right?
Yeah, I think the answer is it depends. Yeah, it depends, I think, and you're right, because would you rather have someone that knows the trials and tribulations and can potentially fix it? And I think maybe that's the answer is, can they fix it or not? Obviously, if they get fired, that there's no confidence left in that they can fix what's happened, which is a pity. But I think,
but I'm saying that creates revolving doors, right?
yeah,
And we've seen this in sports. Like
yes,
any underperforming football team starts having a revolving door in management.
yeah. And I know it's not directly related to AI, but I think it is important for the adoption of AI. I do think it in our industry, because if you have someone that's done, and we've heard this all before, everyone that's been in projects has heard this before. I've been doing this for 10, 15 odd years. Why should I change? Why should I change? You hear that still today. You hear people say things like that. I've done it like this before, over and over. Why? And it's worked for me. Why should I change? And it's a valid question. If it works, why change it? Don't fix anything that's not broken.
Yeah.
I guess my counter to that is, it might work for you, but if you take a step back and look at projects are becoming more complex, and maybe we should make them less complex. I know Val says, maybe we should simplify them and break them into smaller chunks and make them more easier to deliver, modular. marginal gains. We've discussed a lot of these things on, like I say, another podcast,
Yeah.
which kind of makes sense in a way, but I don't see that. I don't see it happening. If I'm honest, I don't see people going, "Oh, let's do easier things." Um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
people are not going to say let's do easier things. I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, and innovation doesn't have to be technological, right? Either there's a lot of different ways, and I think it's more about willingness to try and do something different. As you
yeah,
said, if you do the same thing over and over and over, you're going to get the same results, right? There's
yeah.
there's also probably lots of things like politics, many projects that are hard to fix. If we're going back to politics,
The- uh, yeah, I think there's one thing we
at
will
some point
never
we'll
get away
just do a
from.
politics podcast.
We should do politics. Do you know any politicians? We should get a politician on.
I know a couple.
There we go. Just get them on. We're still trying to get your dad on, I think, from episode 3 or 4.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
But no, look, I think we've gone down a massive rabbit hole, but I think it was an important one to try and just unpick and share our thoughts on that, because it's a real problem. I
Mm.
think it's a real problem because it's slowing down the pace at which us as a project profession improves as a collective. And for me, those that do know me knows I'm all about how can we improve together, how can we move forward together. And I think it's important that we discuss what we think might be some of the barriers and how we overcome that. And then maybe there's others out there that go, hey, I think the same or I think different. But let us know. Debate us.
Yeah.
Put comments on. We had a few other things that we thought we might chat about on this one. As we say, we never script these things, Al. Everything from potentially, and I know we said we don't want to talk about politics, but let me go through the list that we had. Potentially deepfakes impacting politics. There's elections in different countries all over the world this year. Um, the one I particularly like is workforce development. So we always talk about AI replacing jobs, but the jobs that AI is creating is an interesting one because there's more around not just, I guess, the mere coding side of things, that job, but design and system integration, ethics. These are jobs now that are becoming real in AI. Responsible AI, all these various jobs that are starting to form is an interesting one as well. And then one that from our last episode, one of the commentators on LinkedIn said they'd actually like to know a little bit more about our thoughts on AI washing. I thought we covered it
Mm.
quite extensively, but we can go down it again if you'd like. And then the one little bit of news, because we felt with Easter holidays and school holidays, it wasn't too much news, but Microsoft Copilot for Security is something I saw that was released, and this is where
Yeah.
IT professionals are using AI to be more secure, which is interesting because there's some people that don't trust AI for security. Do you want to pick any one of those apart?
I mean, if you want to do news, no better than today's News Herald. Jokes aside, I so Copilot for Security. I have a very, very good friend of mine. We used to work together. I think back in 2008 in high performance computing. Works at a company called Tanium, which is actually partly behind Copilot for Security. And I think it's kind of inevitable that you'll have AI for all sorts of different applications, right, including security, because there's a lot to look at when you're looking at the security, not just of systems, and code, but also of organizations, right? So you're looking at policies, you're looking at compliance, you're looking at all that other stuff as well. And laptop and phone management, right? Endpoint management is a big part of it. And I think these are all places where AI will bring just so much automation and automated detection of things. Using machine learning in security is not new, right? Even in the very, very early days of machine learning, it was being used to detect data exfiltration, all that kind of stuff. So
Spam filter. The spam filter's been around forever.
yeah, that's a form of ML. It's kind of security. Like you can use spam filter techniques to detect other stuff like phishing as well. So yeah, I think it was bound to happen even within Copilot, right? And we'll start then seeing AI for infrastructure development, right? And I mean infrastructure, computing infrastructure, not physical infrastructure. Yeah, that's all really I have to say for it.
I like I say, my comment earlier, it's very interesting because if it's a tool designed to enhance security management for IT professionals and IT professionals trust it, yet we have people that aren't in IT that don't trust AI for security yet. There's some disconnect. So that's the interesting observation from my perspective. Should we jump into this AI washing? Just for those that didn't listen
I
to
mean, you can connect this directly to AI washing. I was really trying not to say anything, but yeah, sure.
Well, that's what I thought in my head, so I made the connection because
Yeah.
we did speak about AI washing in the last episode, and this was the SEC, if you remember, case that you were citing.
Yeah.
How far down the road is that case? Has it started? Is it finished? Is it middle? I haven't been
No,
following it.
it's finished, right? Like they awarded penalties. Yeah. The chair of the SEC released a statement on AI washing. But those were awarded. I'm just doing a quick search. Yeah. There it seems that those are closed, right? There was like fines. I don't think there was any imprisonment, but there was fines for sure from the SEC.
Just for those that
There's
don't know, AI washing
oh
is when a company misleads that there is AI in their products, right? And it's in
yeah,
a
it's kind of
general.
like greenwashing, right? It's like greenwashing is when you say that your product is carbon neutral and it isn't, all these kinds
Yep.
of things, right? And so you use the environmental branding and advertising, but actually none of those claims are true.
Yeah.
And greenwashing, I think, is even worse than AI washing, because like if you're AI washing, people believe they might be buying AI and they might be investing in AI, and they aren't. Sure, financial repercussions, but greenwashing, you're actually damaging the ecosystem, thinking that you're doing something good, right?
Mm. So there were penalties, which is interesting because I
Yeah, there were
remember you
financial
observing it,
penalties.
going, "I don't know which way this is going to go. This is really interesting. This is new."
Yeah,
What
yeah,
is,
yeah.
what does it mean? I guess the penalties. What does it mean for the industry?
Well, I don't know how far the SEC can reach with this. So definitely all investment managers are now thinking three times before claiming that either they're using AI-driven strategies or that their strategy is investing in AI companies in the portfolio, etc., or it's a mostly AI portfolio. Listed companies have to be very careful about claiming that they are an AI company, but there's also a large part of the world that is not listed companies, that is not under the jurisdiction of the SEC. And I don't think there's any other organization. Maybe in the UK there's like advertising standards, right? The ASA might have a say on this, but they haven't said anything yet.
It's one to watch. I think it's evolving, and I think companies will push the boundaries, because it's still, although it feels like we've been talking about it forever, it's still emerging tech. In many respects.
There's another kind of AI washing, right? There's like the personal brand AI washing, which is way more common.
Yes. Plenty happening on the likes of your social medias, and people saying that they know what AI is and isn't. And I think it goes without saying, we've said it before, you've got to be not just curious and cautious when you're testing out AI tools and software, but curious and cautious when people tell you they understand AI, and data, and where you're getting your information from, which is it misinformation, which potentially leads us onto one which I don't really want to go down, but the whole deepfakes and impacts on politics and the like. I'll just say one thing is that just be careful on what you see on the internet, because things are getting really, really sophisticated.
This entire episode is deepfaked.
I was just about to say, if not for my autofocus on the camera going in and out, you probably would have believed this is deepfake. But that's what I would say. Did you have any comments on that?
I mean, it's a long topic to unpack, right? I don't see an easy way out of this problem. Deepfaking for political reasons. I mean, deepfake technologies just keeps getting better and better and better and better, right? Like, they do amazing things at Synthesia, right? And they have very, very strong restrictions about what you can and cannot do with it.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not the only ones in the world that can create videos of, and I've got a Synthesia account. I made a version of myself in a Hawaiian shirt that all of a sudden speaks with an American accent because it was funny. But I also cloned my own voice, right? So I can make something that is quite believable. And definitely to the untrained eye, I think my wife would be able to spot it. I hope. I can spot it if it is actually me or a clone.
Can we unpick that a little bit? That experience of you doing that. What concerns or thoughts went through your head when you were uploading yourself, your voice, your image,
I was super excited. There's a couple of specific things that I want to do, and I think we're just not quite there because it still sounds a little bit weird. But I think it's mostly because of the limitations put around the technology rather than the technology itself. I just wanted to automate myself out of a job, right? So at some point, if I can get my Synthesia clone to join a video call and have an LLM trained on all the things that I've said in the past and that I might want to say, and all the information that I have access to, I don't need to do any of that stuff. And all of a sudden, I've got a lot of free time. So yeah, I would love for that to happen, right?
Well, how do I know I'm talking to the real you right now?
You don't. That's the beauty of it. Maybe it isn't me.
It might not be you.
Yeah. But would the AI version of me confess? Or it's all a triple bluff?
Maybe. Very interesting thoughts to think about.
But that technology exists outside of Synthesia, and on darker parts of the web, you can go and find models, or you can build your own, right? Like, most of machine learning is open source, right? So if you have enough computer resources, you can go and build your own cloning platform and start cloning Dale, right? And if I start cloning Dale and have a fake Dale that says, we could have a fake Val. Imagine that actually showing up for the podcast, right?
How do you know Val isn't fake?
Exactly. Other point. No, if he was fake, he'd show up because it would cost a lot less. So that's how I know he's not fake, is that he doesn't turn up. If Val starts coming to the podcast, we're going to lose this joke and it's going to be very sad.
We'll have to look for someone else. But no, it does pose an interesting one, because actually now that you've gone down this route, I think, and you've actually done this and experienced this, there may actually be an angle on projects, because those that are physically on site, that are doing physical activities, there's a lot of people in boardrooms in front of computers doing stuff. And if it doesn't actually have to be likeness and voice, if we can capture what people would do. Because if you then had let's say you had a fantastic forensic planner, can do delay analysis, really, really good, and you like his or her particular way of doing something, and you can somehow have a way of capturing everything they would do, then you could clone them, duplicate what they do. They could live on a system, on a computer, on a server, and you could chuck it schedules and could do multiple schedules all over the show.
Yeah, ironically, the analytics part of that is the harder bit compared to cloning the voice and likeness of them, right? But I guess the security angle on it is, what if I can clone, I don't know, insert project director here, clone project director, and you get to make changes to the project as a third-party malicious actor, right? I don't want to give ideas, but foreign governments could intervene into infrastructure projects in this way.
Yeah. The other thought to pop into my head is, if you did it in a controlled manner and was legal and you knew what you're doing, and you could take advantage of an other project director that's really, really good, and now he or she could be on multiple projects because they're really, really good. If decisions are made, who's accountable if they go wrong? The computer?
The
Management?
computer's never accounted. It's a piece of silicon, right? You can't. If you put a piece of silicon in jail, it doesn't care. Depends who made the thing, right?
Yeah.
This is the usual debate, right? If a self-driving car kills a person, who's responsible, right? And there's I'm sure we've discussed this before, but there's a test case that just got I think it's finished. It just got thrown out, actually. Where someone took Air Canada to the small claims court because they were chatting to the chatbot and about I don't know, something about airfares. I want to say it was like a compassionate airfare because they had to go to a funeral or something like that, right? And the chatbot completely hallucinated the entire thing about the rules, right? And it said, hey, yeah, just book a normal fare, then call us and we'll refund you the difference. Not true. You have to call to book the special fare, right? Now, this person went by what the chatbot said. It's the official Air Canada chatbot. And Air Canada tried to lodge a defense, which got thrown out, that the chatbot is its own entity with its own will, and it is responsible, not them, right? Which is it's senseless because, well, who built the chatbot?
Who owns the
Air
chatbot?
Canada. Who owns it? It's on your website. You're responsible for it, right?
Who's representing? Who's the chatbot representing? If it was a staff member,
Yeah, if it was a staff member that said that, you'd still have to pay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I guess ownership of accountability needs to be
Yeah.
clear. But in most cases, it actually is, right? If you build your own chatbot or you build your own AI and then use it blindly, and you end up building something that doesn't stand up, well, you built it. You're still responsible.
Which, uncannily enough, there's a lot of organizations that actually think they can build their own AI, machine learning. One, I would say leave that to the experts because it'll take far longer than you think. Two, it won't be as good as you think. And three, by the time you've built it, there's something that's better. So for me, my advice would be stay in your lane, do what you're good at, deliver projects. Don't try and create AI. That genuinely, that's my view.
This is
Not a sales pitch or anything like that. That is like genuine. Like if you want to deliver projects, deliver projects.
This is where we need Greg, right? Because Greg was saying a couple of months ago, that every project or every construction company in the world will have to become a software company.
Yeah.
I agree with you actually on this, which it's, do the thing that you know how to do. So we could have had a great debate. Maybe we'll park it for when we're both
Yeah, we can bring it back
here
up
and we can have that
Greg's
one
back.
out. I think it's an interesting point of view, right? Like everybody needs to be way more clued, competent, and geared for adoption of new technology. But you don't necessarily have to become a builder of the technology, right? Because then you're kind of saying like, yeah, every driver has to be a mechanic.
Exactly. And for me, I think, and again, I'll bring it back to sports. Everyone needs to understand the strategy. Everyone needs to know how to, if we're using football, soccer, everyone needs to know how to kick a ball, but not everyone has to be the best striker to score the goals or the best goalkeeper. It's like, do your job, own your role
Yeah.
really, really well. And if you're delivering projects, deliver projects. If you want to become an AI development company and a software company, do that. But I don't see the two things being part of the same organization. My personal view.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think you can understand software from that perspective. Like if you deliver projects, understand what drives software. Absolutely get data literate, understand what does machine learning mean, what does AI mean, what does things all mean, and what are the advantages of them. But yeah, there's a bit where if you focus too much energy trying to be the expert in it, you're actually wasting your own time. My view.
Yeah, I agree.
But anyway,
we should give Greg a chance to articulate his point of view on this at the
we
next
should.
episode.
Greg, if you're listening, we're waiting for you.
It's on.
We're having a lot of fun without
debate.
you, Greg. Look, you know what? This whole deepfake one on politics we spoke about a lot more. I know we went off piece with it, but it was fun. I actually
That's
really
a
enjoyed that one.
tradition now, isn't it?
Yeah, so maybe we'll park the one with workforce development and the skill sets that AI is actually creating for the next one. We do talk to Greg because it kind of goes hand in hand with organizations, and we spend the best part of almost an hour. We try and keep this to about 45-ish minutes, and we've enjoyed this one so much we've lost track of time. But it's always good to talk to you, Al. We haven't spoken in a while, and it's lots of fun. I know that the past couple of weeks has been sort of weird in a sense. I mean, I've been on leave, so I've switched off. But coming back, there hasn't been much that's happened from my perspective, and maybe I've just not seen it or read it. But it feels like at the moment there's a bit of a lull, and maybe people are just a little bit tired of, Chat GPT and AI and machine learning and data and all of that. Maybe it's just been the school holidays. I don't know.
I think it's the
Um,
school holidays.
School holidays.
I think so. Most organizations will deliberately withhold announcements during the school holidays.
Okay. Interesting. So we'll watch this space.
Yeah.
We'll see what develops in the next couple of weeks when our next episode is up. But like I say, it's always good to chat to you, Al. I've thoroughly enjoyed this one. Any final thoughts
Likewise.
before we head to the
Any
end?
final thoughts? There is one bit of news that I don't know if we discussed, but it's a little bit old. There's a new tool called Daven, which is effectively a fully automated software engineer.
Devin.
Daven.
Devin?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's still whitelist only, so I don't have access. I've requested it, but I'm not important enough. But I think we're going to see a lot more over the next year and a half of tools that actually start doing things.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for that.
Again, we're just at the cusp. We're just starting. So watch the space, tip of the iceberg, whatever analogy we want to use. But looks,
Cool.
folks, we've had fun. We hope you have had fun. It's been awesome. Thank you for spending, like I say, the best part of almost an hour with us. Hope we've kept you entertained. Hope we've kept you informed. Hope we've kept you interested. If not, please let us know on LinkedIn. If we have, please let us know as well. We'll give you some more deep fake email addresses to email that don't exist, particularly ones looking out for Greg and Val. Please don't email those. Let us know by comments on LinkedIn. As we say, thank you very much. Take care and bye for now.
Bye.